Climbing back to the top of Mount Soapbox for another rant. And a few days ago, Sony announced the PlayStation Classic. This emulator, video game console from the 90s, can be yours for $100 US. And it's coming with 20 preloaded games. And Sony decided only to mention 5 of the 20. Final Fantasy VII, Jumping Flash, Ridge Racer Type 4, Tekken 3, and Wild Arms. As for the rest, according to this article, link below in the description section, visit PlayStation.com for more details on regional availability, and stay tuned to the blog for a full lineup of titles coming to PlayStation Classic. There are more fan favorites, and we can't wait to share more details in the coming months. By the way, coming months, the console will be released December 3rd, 2018. There's already pre-orders on GameStop, Best Buy, elsewhere. Most likely sold out already. Would not surprise me. People love nostalgia. The member berries. You'd think that they would go ahead and announce all 20 games for the PlayStation Classic, but no. Oh, and you also would think that the game console emulator thing would come with a AC adapter, but as you can tell, it does not. For the record, an AC adapter does come with the NES Classic as well as the Super Nintendo Classic. And to Nintendo's credit, they actually announced all the games that came with each one of those emulators, platforms. It's freaking ridiculous, Sony. This is insane. For one thing, only 20 games? This console, in its lifetime, had way more than 20 games. Way more. Yeah. As you can tell, a bit more than 20. We're only at the B's. The problem with only 20 preloaded games when you have a console that had way more than 20 preloaded games is you're not going to please everybody. Now, I know that there's some people out there that have allegedly leaked what all 20 games are going to be. I'm going to wait till that's confirmed by Sony. But no matter what the issue is here, the fact is, A, we should already know about all 20 games. That should have been announced with the article linked below in the description section. B, why are you going the same route that Nintendo is with the NES Classic and the Super Nintendo Classic instead of simply allowing the fans to have whatever games they want on this emulator? PlayStation Classic. Because with only 20 games, you're not going to please anybody at all. For example, I am a fan of a game that debuted on the original PlayStation called Grand Theft Auto. You may have heard of it. Yeah, what if it's not one of the 20 games? Chances are it may not be, because back in the 90s, it really wasn't that popular. It wasn't until Grand Theft Auto 3 came out in 2001 that the GTA IP franchise really took off. But it started with the original PlayStation. So there's a very slim chance that the game I want is going to be one of the 20 preloaded games on the PlayStation Classic. And there's a very real possibility that any other PlayStation fan out there may also be disappointed because the game they love playing the most may not be included either. Now, obviously, there are going to be 20 games on this thing, and some people will be happy, ecstatic, that their games, or a couple of their games that they loved back in the day on the original PlayStation, is included on this emulator. But like the old saying goes, you can't please everybody. There's a few other problems with the PlayStation Classic as well, as my friend Carrick over at ACG pointed out. His channel is awesome. He's one of the best reviewers of games, AAA, and indie. He's also the host of the International Podcast, for which I'm one of the co-hosts. And in his video regarding the PlayStation Classic, he pointed out the fact that the PlayStation Classic will not come with a built-in scaler, meaning it may not even look right on our TVs, depending on what kind of TV you have. And there's all sorts of different types of TVs now, as well as different sizes. So what may look good with the PlayStation Classic on one TV might end up looking like crap on someone else's TV because of the fact it does not include a built-in scaler. Now, along with these 20 preloaded games, 15 of them still remain a mystery until they're officially confirmed. We're also getting to controllers, which is cool, but another issue arises. These were the original controllers for the very first PlayStation, but eventually Sony upgraded these controllers to this controller, the dual analog or dual shock, whatever you want to call it. Eventually, we got a controller for the PlayStation that looks more like the controller of today. Obviously, there's some differences that have been changed from the original PlayStation, the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, and now PlayStation 4. But the question is, why are they not including this version of the PlayStation controller, which makes more sense, in my opinion, than the OG controller? Because some of the games that came out on the original PlayStation required that controller and not this controller, which means that they're going to put games on the PlayStation Classic which only work with this controller and not with this controller as well, because this controller would play all the PlayStation games, the original PlayStation games before this controller, as well as the games that came along with and all the way to the end of the life of the original PlayStation, which sadly does not surprise me at all. As I pointed out already, Nintendo's already taken advantage of us when it comes to nostalgia with the NES Classic, the Super Nintendo Classic, and eventually there'll probably be an N64 Classic. Wouldn't surprise me if that came out this year. I heard there's rumors about that, so chances are I'll be getting that one too. At least Nintendo would probably announce all the games that would be coming with that N64 emulator, unlike Sony, which for whatever rhyme or reason has decided to leave 15 of them an outright mystery for us to ponder over the next few months leading up to the release of the PlayStation Classic. Sony, you've made some great games over the years. You've had some awesome consoles. You're at the top of the game, right? You're at the top, king of the hill when it comes to video games right now. Why are you really doing this? Besides money, which seems to be the obvious answer, why are you doing this? I get it. You're a company. You're a business. You have to make money in order to survive. I get it. But instead of going this route with this emulator, which I think is pretty pricey, especially since there's some things it doesn't come with, like an AC adapter or the DualShock original PlayStation controls, only 20 games, why don't you instead put PlayStation original games, PS1 games, on the PlayStation Store for owners of the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 4 Pro to purchase, download, and play? Impossible, you say? I beg to differ, because I have several PlayStation 2 games, including the one that's in the B-roll right now, that I purchased, downloaded, and play on my PS4 courtesy of the PlayStation Store. So if Sony could do that with PlayStation 2 games, then they could easily do the same thing with the original PlayStation games. Plus, they could put way more than 20 games on the PS Store and please a lot more of the PS1 fans. And maybe, just maybe, anyone out there that doesn't have a PlayStation 4 that was a fan of the original PlayStation, they may see some of their original PlayStation games that they loved when they were in their teens or however old they were when they first played the PlayStation on the PlayStation Store for the PS4 and the PS4 Pro, and be like, you know something, I may want to pick up a PlayStation 4 Slim. Maybe not a PlayStation 4 Pro, since they're currently still out of stock in the US, but maybe a PlayStation 4 Slim, so I can download those awesome PlayStation games that I used to love off the PS1. But no, I guess that just makes too much sense. So what we're getting instead is basically a $100 emulator without an AC adapter, with pre-dual analog shock controllers, lacking a built-in scaler, and only 20 games out of probably countless games that came with the original PlayStation. I would like to believe that most of the consumers out there are not going to buy the PlayStation Classic or pre-order it until they know exactly which 20 games are coming with this emulator. And that's basically what it is. It looks like a smaller version of the original PlayStation, but at the end of the day, it's an emulator with 20 games that may or may not look good on your TV, depending on what type or size TV you happen to have. Unfortunately, most likely there's a lot of Sony fans out there that have already pre-ordered the PlayStation Classic, just like the Nintendo fans, myself included, that pre-ordered the NES Classic and the Super Nintendo Classic. Why, you ask? Well, because Sony and Nintendo got us hooked on video games since we were kids, and they know how to use nostalgia against us. Well, against our wallets, right?